Welcome back to Develop Lex. Today, we have a very exciting interview. We have Mitch Barnhart, and as we've said over the last few episodes, the creation of Lexington is not just real estate. It's a lot of the businesses and the people and the organizations that go along with that real estate. And we thought, when we were kind of grand scheming Develop Lex, we thought, like, what are the really vital parts of Lexington? And a huge part of that is the university, and then a really large part of the university is our athletics program. So Mitch from day one has been somebody that we've wanted to have on, and we got him. He's on today. So yeah,
arguably the largest developer in Lexington with all the capital projects you've had.
I don't know. It's there's probably some that have taken up more land, and but obviously the projects we undertake are usually pretty massive in nature. I just left a press conference where we did a sort of an inside sneak peek at Memorial Coliseum. So it's not quite ready yet. We got about another month and a half to go, and before we're actually playing games in there. But it's $82 million facility that's a renovation of one of the most iconic facilities on the campus.
That's pretty amazing.
Pretty cool.
So could you share a little bit about background, how you came to Lexington and what Lexington looked like when you first got here? And
it's we've been here, my wife and our children. We came in 2002, so I've been in college athletics this is year 42 for me in terms of actual full-time work. But I've been doing sports for probably since I was a sophomore in high school. So the marketplace has changed a lot in the world of sport, and I can go back and go through all the major events that changed the world of sports business. It used just to be competitive sport, and now you're into the world of sport business, and it changed over a handful of 4 or 5 events, 6 events in the late 70s, early 80s, which catapulted sports marketing, the world of licensing and multimedia rights, into a world of business around the enterprise of sports. And you couple that with obviously massive fan appeal, and you're doing the dance between making sure that you keep your fan bases engaged as well as your athletes competitive. And so it's a major enterprise. When I came to Kentucky in 2002, Dr. Todd said, Mitch, there's a couple things I can't mess up. I can't mess up UK healthcare, and I can't mess up athletics. I said, those are 2 things I can't mess up. So I said, I got it. So that's been, and I say that semi-facetiously. We understand our platform and what we're supposed to be doing. But the landscape of sport has changed dramatically, and it is we're a $180 million operation at Kentucky. But the institution itself, that Dr. Capilouto and his staff run, is an $8 billion plus, was just approved at the last trustees meeting, $8 billion operation. So we're a small part of it, really, really small part of it. But we have a big platform, and I think we've got to be very conscious of how we manage the platform and how we, as I call it, the front porch to the institution. We're the front porch. People come to the University of Kentucky through the front porch, and then they get to open up the doors to the house and see what's inside. And it's a spectacular institution, but a lot of people come to it through athletics.
That's amazing. So 2002. Mm-hmm. So you've been here about 22 years.
Yep.
That's pretty insane. Ross and I are both 27. So
don't say that. That makes me really old. Yeah.
I thought I would just get out ahead of it.
That's great. That's great.
So we talked a little bit about your journey of getting here, but what inspired you to get into athletics administration?
I think when you're growing up, when I grew up, kids played everything. You played multiple sports. I love, you hear it all the time, people in the sporting world, I love sports, that's why I wanted to get into it. Well, I wanted to play. I didn't want to be an administrator. Unfortunately, there was genetics involved in a little bit of that, and some of us weren't made to play. I was smaller, didn't quite have the speed necessary, but I played a lot. I loved it. Was very into, had a lot of intrigue about the game. So I thought at that point in time I wanted to coach. I said, I'll coach. And then I realized there was a bunch of people going into coaching, and I was also I love to write, and I love to, back when I was in high school, I would go to up in the corners of the high school gym and take an old cassette recorder. You guys don't even know what that is. I'd take a cassette recorder and I would do play-by-play of the high school basketball games. And then I'd go home and listen to see what I sounded like. And one of my guys, you're growing up, again, you have not idols, because I didn't want to be in that, but you had people you followed in the world of sport. Vin Scully was a great voice in the world of sport. And I followed Vin Scully. I thought, I can be the next Vin Scully, And then you start putting pieces of the puzzle together. I was a writer. I like to use my voice. And a guy came to me and said, hey, you can do this for a living. I said, really? They actually have jobs in this? And again, I hit the time frame when the transition from just coaching and competing turned into sports business. And so I went to college and went through a journey of college where I was sort of doing that on a small level at Ottawa University, where I went to school. And then they said there's a grad school up in Ohio U, which is where I went to grad school, that does this specifically for 25 kids a year, and they plug you into the world of sport. And that's how I got started. So there were 600 kids that applied, and they take 25 every year. And I don't know how I got in. To this day, I have no idea why they picked me. I got in, and so really quick. I took the GRE. I'll never forget taking the GRE, and that's back when you got your results in the mailbox. And I opened my mailbox up and had opened up the GRE score. My advisor walked by me, looked at my score. He goes, "You'll never get in anywhere." And I said, "That's great, perfect, that's awesome, thanks, great news." But I got in at Ohio U and was plugged into a system where I started at San Diego State, and then off we went. And 42 years later, we're still fortunate enough to be in the business of sport and in the enterprise, whatever you want to call it. And but predicated on two things. I always loved the thought about competing. I also like the part about being an educator. So being able to tie those two things together is really important. We're the only system of athletics anywhere in the world that ties sport and education together. No one else ever anywhere in the world does that. Europe doesn't do it. Asia doesn't do it. South America doesn't do it. We're the only enterprise in the world that does that. And I think that makes it unique, because not only are we preparing people for understanding of how to lead and how to do things that are really, really important in life, but we're teaching people, we're educating, and maybe we're putting the next, and it's trite to say it. It sounds really easy to say, but we are producing an incredible group of leaders. They might be doctors and lawyers and CEOs, but we've seen it come out of our program in real time. And so that's been rewarding, fascinating, cool, and all those things combined.
Develop Lex is sponsored by SV & Stone Commercial Real Estate, a full-service commercial real estate firm located in Lexington, Kentucky, affiliated with the SVN International Network, which is comprised of over 1,600 advisors and staff and 200-plus offices across the globe. The SV & Stone team consists of experienced commercial real estate advisors in the heart of the Bluegrass. SVN provides commercial real estate services to large corporations, middle market businesses, and individual entrepreneurial investors. Serving the greater Lexington area, SVN offers advisory services for sales, leasing, management, and development of commercial properties locally, regionally, and nationally. With transaction volume of over $400 million, the advisors at SV & Stone Commercial Real Estate have vast experience and deep understanding of all aspects of commercial real estate.
There's almost so many different routes I could go with these questions of what has changed in the last 22 years since you've been at the university. The first one I would want to ask, so I think it would be cool, obviously this is kind of a real estate development based podcast, but I mean, I really want to stay on athletics administration just for a minute, and just how has the actual industry, it just sounds so unique. How has the actual industry changed since you have been at the University of Kentucky in 22 years?
Well, I think the first thing you'd point to, I mean, I can go back to 1998 in that range when I went I was at Tennessee. And I went from a senior associate position to an athletic director position at Oregon State. And when I went in there, that was the I would say the beginning, but it was the sort of where everybody began to change the way they communicated. Where the cell phones weren't a suit box big, and they were a suitcase big. They've started to become actual small handheld devices. We began to communicate through email a little more back in those days, and people laugh because that's not even a thought in today's world. Fast forward to 22 when we came to Kentucky, and then I think the world of multimedia changed, the way we deliver information, the way we put on the games that we play, the things that we do, the expectations, just the focus of when I first became an athletic director, the focus was so centrally based on facilities. And now that is not as much a thought in a young person's brain. You've got to have them because they assume you're going to have them. That's not what wins in recruiting too much anymore because of the NIL landscape that we're in. So if you said it was how we communicate, to the facilities we create, to the competitive pieces of scheduling and visibility on television, to now we're into this landscape of NIL. And it is how we recruit has changed dramatically. Our appeal to our fan bases has changed dramatically, and how we do that. The pageantry around the game, the putting the game on. It's a show. I mean, there's more to it than just lining up and playing on the court or on the field or something like that. There is a piece that, I mean, you'd be surprised, maybe not, after a game, I'll get as many emails about a song we played or a video we played or didn't play, or, hey, you missed an opportunity to get the crowd excited. The Wildcat didn't run across the field at the right time. I mean, come on, man. But, it's fascinating what people are paying attention to. So we have 60,000 people in Kroger Field, 21,000 in Rupp Arena, and everyone's got an opinion. The song that excites you might not excite me, and all of a sudden I'm writing an email to the athletic director about how I can't, or that song offended me, or something like that. It is fascinating to see what you get. Everyone's got an opinion, and so thankful for that people are passionate, but realizing you've got to find a thing, and a lot of those things are organic as they grow, and so I think all those things have changed, and then at the end of the day. I would say the turnover, or the churn, if you will, is a lot more. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is simply this. I think the churn of athletes in your program is turning quicker and quicker because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, and because the impatience, frankly, of young people. They want it today, and they want it. There's not a desire or an ability to wait for their turn in the roster or their turn to play. So that's changed. And then the churn, so that in turn has churned coaches as well. So the average tenure for a coach, sometimes an athletic director, those tenures are shrinking dramatically. When at one point in time, we had both the most tenured coach in football and basketball in the SEC. When Cal was here, and then Coach Stoops, they were the most tenured, and I was the most tenured athletic director in the league. So, you start putting those pieces together, and then we had a president that was most tenured president in the league. I mean, okay, wow, that's pretty impressive when you start thinking about stability, and I think that's unique in today's environment because the churn has become fast. So 4 or 5 years, 6 years, boom, gone, next deal. Athletes, 1 or 2, gone, next deal, and so that has changed a lot.
So help put some mile markers on when you came in. Wildcat Lodge was in a different area, which is now a dorm for regular students.
Mm-hmm.
Nutter Training was the main place for football. Walk us through what it was early 2000s, and then kind of a jump to what it is now.
I get my timeline a little wrong, but if you just said, okay, we came in Memorial Coliseum, had no Joe Kraft Center to it. That was built in 06, 07, somewhere in that range. We added the practice facility to that. We had the lodge, which has obviously moved to the other side of a memorial. Nutter Training Center. We used it for a good long time, even through Coach Stoops' first few years here. And then we realized we needed something a little more that met our needs a little bit differently. And everything from weight room to nutrition and meeting space, we were just out of sync. We just didn't have enough room. So the Joe Kraft Football Training Center was built, and we turned the Nutter Center into basically a backdrop for track and field and some of our Olympic sports. And I say that because those things are important. I go back, I can say, then we added the complex down there with softball, soccer. And then eventually we moved Cliff Hagan to baseball, which opened the ability for us to then go back and plug in the new indoor track, which took the indoor track out of the old indoor football. We took the track out. We were able to expand our football indoor to a full field, which was actually competitively necessary for us for safety purposes and everything else. And then we were able to redo gymnastics and gave us more space for gymnastics. Why is that important? Well, it's important competitively for football and men's basketball to have the facilities that they needed. Clearly, the basketball competes at Rupp Arena, which also underwent a $250 million renovation to the entire convention center, which helps the downtown corridor for concerts and things like that we bring in there. But the thing that is really important, and not really important, it's as important in my opinion, is in about 2 weeks from this broadcast that we're doing right now, the Olympics are going to start, and we're going to have close to 15, 18, 20 athletes competing with the University of Kentucky as the backdrop for their banner as they go into the Olympics, whether that's for the United States or for some other countries. But I think we've got 6 Olympians on the track and field squad. We've got 3 on the USA basketball team. And you start going around, we've got a couple of folks in the rifle competitions. We've got fencing competitions, a couple of folks in swim and dive, and young people competing for other countries in track and field and basketball. I mean, it is a fascinating backdrop to think that this institution will be so well represented in Paris in the Olympics. Unbelievable. So why do you do it? There's a lot of reasons you do it. That is just an absolute benefit to us. And, we'll send a package of gear and some good wishes to those kids as they compete and thank them for wearing Kentucky jerseys when they were here.
Craftsman Contractors is Central Kentucky's one-stop shop for roofing, windows, siding, and gutters. CraftsmanContractors.com/contact us will get you straight to the form you need so their team will get in touch about your project. Or just text Steven at 859-246-0108. When they finish your project, like windows, siding, gutters, or roofing, you'll see what they mean when they say we build with integrity.
That's pretty amazing. I think a couple of things resonate with me during that. One is it makes me proud to be an alumni because it does feel like that investment was necessary in the sense of maybe a lot of those investments were necessary in terms of upgrades, but more so because the athletics program was doing so well that it warranted upgrading, and we're just continuing to invest in the university. And that's just a cool thing to be a part of as an alumni. Secondly, it makes me think about just maybe the standards in Lexington of the University of Kentucky is obviously kind of the heartbeat of Lexington and bleeds into a lot of different things. So when I think about myself as a resident, it's like when me and my wife were talking about this recently, what our ideal Lexington weekend would be. One of those things is on a fall day to go to a football game at night and sit under a little second level with some of our friends and cheer on the Cats at night. And that's a huge staple of the way that people in Lexington tick.
You're not going to go fishing that morning.
I'm not going to go fishing that morning until Mitch lets me access his Elkhorn
At the Elkhorn Creek.
Elkhorn access. Then
right.
I won't go fishing that morning. But so with that, I think I start thinking about more like how it's just ingrained in the community and that the standards are just higher, and that just helps the community. My question to that would be, have there been any just notable things that you've seen just play out with the involvement of the university and how that bleeds into just like the fabrics of Lexington?
Oh, in terms of the university as a whole, I think there's so many ways that this university, is woven into to Lexington. I remember when I first came here, I had someone tell me, and I don't even remember who it was, and I'm thankful, said, whatever you do on a football Saturday in the fall, don't give in to Keeneland. Make sure that you guys don't give in to Keeneland. I said, I don't know what that means. And what we've found is this really cool partnership with Keeneland, just wonderful. It's absolutely so amazing to hear how many people talk about a little bit about what you talked about. One of my favorite days is to come to Keeneland. You get up and have breakfast in the morning, you go to Keeneland at noon, you go to the races during the day, and then we get in the car and drive over to Kroger Field and go to a football game at night. And then I've heard the other thing is, hey, we went to Midnight Madness on Friday night, went to Keeneland on Saturday, and went to the game Saturday night. It was unbelievably cool. Those kind of things, to your point, make Lexington uniquely special. And I cannot tell you how many people from around our conference in the SEC talk about the really cool stuff that is unique to Lexington, whether that's tying in the Bourbon Trail, which is maybe not Lexington proper, but it is a fabric of our enterprise, right? And so people have found a way to put all those pieces of the puzzle together in terms of the athletic and the events and things like that. But I think when I think about the other pieces, the medical care that we get here, this hospital, what UK Hospital does to serve the region, it's the only regional trauma center, that does so much for Lexington. But oh, by the way, it reaches out to everyone else. And now that there's beginning to be, help in rural Kentucky and places where there's really struggles for healthcare. And so I think the reach that this institution has in terms of that is remarkable. And, I just think that when I first came, Dr. Todd, when I first came, said, hey, man, these are the Kentucky uglies. These are the things that we have got to find a way. I think there were 7 of them, I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly what they're, but he said, Mitch, this is what I'm working on. By the time he'd left, he had impacted those things, whether it was education or healthcare or something like that, dramatically well. And Dr. Capilouto came along and he said, I'm going to take those and we're going to go and we're going to do some more. And we're going to keep expanding on that. And he did. And I think that where we're the land grant institution, and sometimes people get hung up and it's a college education. Well, I think when I came here, the budget of the institution was $1.2 billion, if I'm not mistaken, or $1.5 billion. When you're over $8 billion, understanding there's some inflation, it doesn't go that fast, that there's a monumental investment, not only locally, but regionally for this institution. And so Dr. Todd was incredibly concerned about the academic profile of the institution and making sure that we grew that. He did that, and Dr. Capilouto's come along and said the absolute footprint of this institution needs to be defined by how many cranes we have on our campus, making sure we're doing some building. So part of this podcast is about developing. He was really, really focused on that, and so we did a lot of that. And so I think that that's been good for the job industry. It's been good for, obviously, all sorts of enterprises around here that touch that, whether that's, steel or HVAC, or, you can go through all the construction pieces. Then you can just go to, hey, man, those people have all got to eat lunch someplace, and all those people have got to go get gas someplace. And I think the ripple, throw the pebble in the pond, it's a pretty good sized rock you're throwing in the pond. With the construction that's been done on this campus and the growth, the ripple's been awesome. And we just want to make sure, in my opinion, that this is my personal opinion, not a university, but I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the cool that Lexington, I don't know, people call it the vibe now, I guess, is that I'm not that guy.
It's the vibe.
But we want that feel, that Lexington hasn't lost that really amazing feel that it has. And it's such a warm, vibrant, really fun place to be around. And I just think that makes it uniquely special. I was driving somebody through we were driving through Lexington, and I take a lot of back roads, and I don't stay on the main roads very well. But I do it because, number one, it's pretty cool just to drive through all the horse farms, and you're 5 miles from downtown and you're in the middle of horse country. And it's just, I love watching the horses run, and I love them seen up next to the fence. And I think that's unique to Lexington. Don't want to lose that.
So what's it look like when you are trying to juggle the priorities of athletics versus a department head in healthcare saying we need this much acreage versus a president saying this is the containment that we have within an urban area? How does that work when you're constantly playing jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
With that, what are those conversations?
So the
like?
master plan of the university has been, obviously they've had a master plan for a good bit, and that adjusts and they tweak it and change it. Obviously there's things that have been in place and that are maybe not as necessary as they used to be. So you take some things down and put some new things up. And we've been fortunate that in our footprint, we've been able to sort of use our footprint effectively well. So where soccer and softball were already down there, we sort of just built on what we had, and we had the little corner and we sort of adjusted and put baseball in there on the corner. And I mean, my gosh, think about that. Last spring we host regionals and super regionals. We're averaging 7,000 people a game. Well, that's again, going back to what's good for Lex. Every 7,000 people coming in, hotels are full, restaurants are busy, everyone's going to the game. Oh my gosh, that's fun. Everybody had a great time, and we won. So the Cats win. It was really good. But we were really good about it. And then we go back and we rebuild on the baseball footprint. We put our track in there, and we got a world-class track. Why is that important? Because Sidney McLaughlin's going to break the world record again in the hurdles. And I go back to all those Olympians. But in addition to that, the Southeastern Conference track championships are coming. The national regional track championships are coming. And oh, by the way, the high school track championships are here every year. Again, people coming to Lexington. And oh, by the way, those high school kids, they might just want to check out our campus when they come to see if that's a place that they would want to go to school. And so that's been our sole purpose in making sure that we bring people around and doing that. But going back to the master plan piece, there's things that clearly, like, I'll give you a great example right now. Our last big project would be our nationally ranked tennis program. So Cedric Kaufman has done an amazing job. Our facility's not top shelf. It's not the best in the league. We got a really tough group of kids that compete really, really well. That facility is in the center of an area where the institution currently really would like to have more recreational space for the 35,000 kids that are on our campus. We sit right in the middle of that for our varsity courts. They would like to have that space back. They need it for parking. They need it for rec space. They need it for green space. We would like to give it to them, but we've got to find an alternative place on this campus to be able to develop 6 indoor courts, maybe 6 to 12 outdoor courts, and some offices and a couple locker rooms. We've got a space. Then you have to go get funding for that and put that in place, and we think we've got it. So it is a little bit of a give and take, and then you go back to the master plan and say, how does that fit? Okay, that's what you need. We still have to have a tennis program here, and we're pretty good. So let's find a way to move that around. And Eric Monday on campus is, I don't know if there's anybody been better at doing that and shaping the face of the campus than Eric and his staff.
How does the financing work with self-supported bond capacity? What's a peek into how things are funded through athletics
obviously,
and capital projects? There
is a bond capacity for the state. There's bond capacity for higher education in our state, and that goes through at a level that's much higher than mine. And we're a part of any ask would go through our institution, and they would say, hey, this is our bond capacity. It's our bond rating, all those good pieces that we're familiar with. And early on when I was here, we didn't have availability to that. Our bond capacity was a little low, and we didn't have the ability to access that very well. So that made the renovations of Kroger Field really, really difficult because that was a $100 million plus project. So we would go to the university with an ask and say, can we be a part of the bond structure that you guys are putting forward to Frankfurt and do that? We have not done that much. We've done a lot of private gifting and private fundraising, and most of our facilities have been built on the heels of those contributions. So my early years, we saved like crazy, put money aside. Construction prices were low, interest rates were low. We were very fortunate to be able to access our savings, and when construction was a little more competitive, we were able to do that. So we built a lot of things. Most everything we have built has been paid for. We just finished in the facility that we're sitting in, Kroger Field. We're just finishing putting new lights and new ribbon boards in here. That's $7 million worth of projects. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, we paid for that out of contributions and savings, things that we've done. Not easy. That is not an easy pathway. So in terms of our actual debt service, we're one of the lowest in the league in terms of actual debt service to our program. Hoping that if we got to a spot where we said, hey, we needed to build a tennis facility, could we bond, half of it? If it was a $30 million facility, could we bond $15 million of it and pay for the other with contributions and do that? But that's how it works. We are part of the bigger picture. We don't get to go out on our own and say, hey, we're going to do our own deal. It is a part of the university's financing model, and we're thankful when they let us participate. A lot of the bond structure has gone to the hospital, and it needs to go to the hospital. That's where the medical care for this area is founded. I want to make sure that we support that well.
Develop Lex is also sponsored by Community Trust Bank. Hi there, this is Cam Dacey, Commercial Loan Officer at Community Trust Bank and avid Develop Lex and Middle Tech podcast listener. Community Trust offers a wide variety of home loans, commercial loans, and small business loans to suit your financial needs, as well as mobile banking, internet banking, and bill pay. Their friendly and professional staff would love to assist you at one of their 6 Lexington locations. Community Trust Bank is committed to building communities built on trust. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval.
Yeah, that it is really interesting. The theme that I kept thinking about when just talking about the way that the university grows is something that's unique when I've gone and visited other places is a lot of other schools aren't necessarily right in the heart of their town. My office is 270 South Limestone, so we're right across from Local Taco. We are right on the edge of the University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
When the University of Kentucky ever needed to expand, it's going to keep bleeding into other parts of town, which is great. I think that makes it incredibly unique. But you'll visit other universities, and it's not necessarily like that, which I think does, I wouldn't say it hurts, but it hurts in some capacity those other universities to give that experience of being able to leave a football game, go downtown, whatever. I think that's just a really unique thing. But it obviously does constrain, if we need to build a tennis facility, there's not just 2 acres right next to the university that you guys can get and then build a tennis facility. It really is a jigsaw puzzle, like Ross said.
It is.
We maybe touched a little bit on, but just to be explicit with it, what are a few of the projects that the University of Kentucky Athletics specifically is working on over the next few years that you get excited about?
Yeah, I think there's, we'll always have things that catch our eye. You go to another facility somewhere else and they say, your coach goes someplace and they say, hey, we saw this, they're doing this. Could we do that? And to give you an idea of technology and how it changes, the LED lights that we're putting in now. So that was probably 2 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, we went to Alabama. We played Alabama at Alabama. It was the first really time we'd seen those in real time. Alabama put them in, and they were very expensive when they put them in. They have now come down in cost, which I'm thankful for that. Not much, but a little bit. But those are the lights that change colors, come on and off. And we've got them in baseball. Not that change colors, but when we hit a home run or when we win a game, you'll see them. They'll flicker and on and off, and they do. They drive enthusiasm, if you will. So fans, from a fan experience perspective, really important. But it's $5 million or $3 million, where the total project between the two was $7 million. I forget how it was broken down, but my point is not cheap. The ribbon boards, they break. They've been in here 9 years now, so they were gone. They were down to their last deal. They break. The scoreboards, those are things that are ongoing maintenance that are not cheap to replace. You just don't walk in and go, hey, we'll go find a couple extra $100,000 laying around here and we'll go fix them. It doesn't work that way. Those are $5 million fixes. So that's big. Those aren't just out of your pocket expenses. And then you've got things like tennis, massive facility. When we priced it, 5 years ago, it was probably in that 17, 18 million range. It's probably double that now because of construction prices and inflation and everything else that's going on. So you have to really assess, are we able to do that? And does that make sense for us? Or do we turn it into a public-private partnership? Do we do a P3? And where we've got a a club attached to it, or we have somebody attach it to a hotel on campus or something like that. We're going to bring a hotel and put it on the edge of campus. These are Mitch's crazy thoughts, right? So you sit there and say, okay, are those things possible? Could we, at the back end of this facility, and we've talked about that, could we put another club in the back on the end zone part of Kroger Field? Could we do another club down there and attach a restaurant to it that might serve our campus or something? Is it viable? Does it even work? And so others have tried it in different places, and we've thought about it. So lots of little pieces like that. And then we'll just have ongoing stuff. The track needs resurfacing. So we had to resurface the track to be able to host these major meets. And so those are expensive. But I think in terms of major builds, once we get Memorial open and if we can find a way to get the tennis thing done, in terms of major builds for our sports programs, we've sort of done that. Now it gets to updating, maintaining, and not repair. I hope we're never to the spot. There's a couple things in Kroger Field that we had to go back to seriously repair, or they were dangers, and a couple stairwells and things like that. People don't think about that, but those are not cheap fixes. But other than that, I think we can go to updating, not calling it maintenance and repair, more so updating, and maybe getting to a spot of we're using technology well and making sure that we're up to speed on that.
It's awesome. I think maybe going into a little bit of the personal side and some forward-facing questions. One thing, we've talked pretty heavy about athletics administration, a little bit about real estate. You also are a Lexingtonian at heart. You and your family have been here for over 20 years, very, very deeply ingrained in the community. What are a few of the things about Lexington that you just get excited about, you and your family, over the next 5 to 10 years maybe?
Well, I probably won't be in this chair in 5 to 10 years, so we'll see. We'll see about that. But which might excite a lot of people. I think that as I look at it personally, there's a lot of things that I would like to have time to do that I haven't had time to do. I've been doing this for 42 years. I've never been a fan. I've always had a chance. I've always been working it. So. To at some point in time be able to come and sit and watch a game without having to worry about whether the hot dog is hot or if there's enough ice in the concession stand. Those, I'm joking when I say it, but there's a day I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
But Lexington has so much to offer. Because of our schedule, concerts, things that my wife and I would enjoy doing. That's all available here. That's what makes Lexington unique. Rupp Arena, Opera House, the convention center, it brings things to Lexington. Since I've been here, that has grown exponentially. And I think it is a unique, we've got great restaurants. We've got wonderful things to do. I'll look forward to participating in some of those things in terms of just socially being able to do that. But more importantly, and I think that the most important thing is, how do we continue to help Lexington? And my wife is deeply ingrained in a couple of charities here, and her Bible study, and the way she's able to teach young kids, and that's hugely important to her. It's important to me as well. And so how we impact, and I don't believe you stop giving. I don't believe you stop serving. I do believe that you find different ways. And so that's important to us. This is a wonderful place, and almost 2 of my 3 children are still here, with 5 of our 6 grandchildren. So in terms of what it means to us, the ability to continue to make sure their experiences here and what this city means is really important to us.
I was going to say, I was going to make a joke. I was going to say, maybe when you do retire at some point, 30 years from now, we can become fishing buddies. That was really the hope of this whole interview. That we could become fishing buddies and hang out on the Elkhorn.
Call him when he trespasses. I'll take it back.
No, we have loved the farm. We moved to the country. And it's been great, and we do have a really special spot on the Elkhorn Creek, so it is really good. And special place. So
Yeah.
it's one of the I don't. Everyone tells me. I think they're right. It is one of the great creeks in the whole state, and it is beautiful. And so it's right in our backyard, and so we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, it is. I can certainly attest.
Yeah.
Thanks for making time for us. Thanks for everything you
Yeah.
build in Lexington and build in all the student athletes' lives. I know the way that you've run the program made a big difference in
Yeah.
how I see.
Yeah,
No,
world.
it's an honor. We consider an absolute honor to be here. I remember I'll close with this, other than just saying we came here, and in athletics you usually stay someplace 6 to 10 years, and then you get on to the next journey. And then I remember when we took the job, saying to my wife, we'll stay here a bit, then we got to go on to the next deal, and so 22 years, working on 23 years later, it's not only did it become our home, it is an incredibly special place to us. It means a great deal to our family, and they always say, enter humbly, exit well, and I want to make sure we do that. And this is I hope people that live here understand what a special place this is, and that we treat people incredibly well when they come, and that we keep it special to the things that are unique to Kentucky, the horses, the Bourbon Trail, the Keeneland, the UK athletics. We're part of that fabric. We're thankful to be a part of the fabric of that, and we're thankful to have such. I got great people around me, and I would be remiss if I didn't say my staff is unbelievable. They do a great job, and they don't get enough thanks for what they do. It's in season. It's 80 to 100 hours a week every week, and they are on it, and they work really, really hard to make sure that when people walk in the gates, that it's. People walk in, they go, "Wow, that was pretty good 3 hours." Well, these people have been here for 5 days getting ready, and they're working hard, man. And so even now, the preparation for football is going on right now. So people are getting ready for 8 nights. Let that sink in. 8 nights. So it's a lot, but really got a great staff, and super thankful for them. And over the time that we've been here, so many special relationships, and we'll look forward to carrying on with that.